Speaking of experiences, tell me about Eternal Darkness, because it's been over a week now. I've forgotten pretty much everything you've told me.
Ghost toast!
In my brain, horror has always come in three distinct flavors. The physical kind, where the horror derives from monsters, viral infections, or test tube mutants. This is what we call creative science. Then we have the spiritual kind. Ghost stories, the demons based on folkloric tales haunting you in the night. And lastly, we have horrors of the mind. Lovecraftian abominations that with a gentle brush of their thoughts against your consciousness will send you spiraling into madness.
Very well put. It's truly an art form, really.
I think when it comes to messing with your audience, no other medium does this as well as games, because games give you control. And then, suddenly, they can take that away, and then you're just left a shivering mess. Did you ever play a game, Thani, called Layers of Fear?
No, actually I have not.
In Layers of Fear, you play as a painter, slowly going mad, as you move through your mansion to find ingredients for your painting. The house shifts around you. If you look at something and then look away and then back, that something could have completely changed, be that chair, wall, or even rooms. It's a neat trick, which is pretty effective at first, but it does it so much that it becomes predictable. Oh, there's a dead end in this hallway, I better turn around, and then the hallway, the thing that you just went through, has completely changed. So that's the problem with that.
Lost, is Layers of Fear similar to PT?
It's not an unfair comparison, because both games are very much corridor walking games, but I think PT comes out better in that regard because it's short and sweet, terror distilled, you could say.
Ooh.
So we're here to talk about Eternal Darkness. That's the game that fits very neatly into the Lovecraftian category that we have just talked about. And in that game, you take control of Alex Roivas, who finds her grandfather murdered, body utterly mangled and lacking a head. Which is bad, because you usually need that to live, you know?
Yes, you'd think. Mm-hmm. Or I guess you wouldn't if you didn't have a head.
No, yeah, I don't think that's a possibility. I don't think you can do that if you're lacking a head. Well, the game plays out in a very similar way to others. So after running around in your deceased grandfather's mansion, solving some standard environmental puzzles, you unlock a secret room where you find a Tome of Eternal Darkness. And you know, that's a very standard-looking Necronomicon. Can you say that word?
Necronomicon?
Thank you. That's a very standard Necronomicon type of book, because it's, you know, bound in human skin and it has skulls on it and all of that.
Oh, gotcha.
And as you read that book, you discover what has happened to it throughout the ages. Each chapter in this book is a scenario that you fight your way through. You take control of the different characters in different historical periods, starting with the game's villain, who just happened to be a Roman centurion, which is also one of my favorite looking villains of all time. Of all time, man.
That's really cool. You know, a lot of games, they don't give you the opportunity to play as the villain, and he looks cool too.
And I will send you an image here now on Discord, and you can take a look at it. And this is actually not from the game, by the way. This was remade. This character is remade in Soul Calibur's character creator.
Oh, let me see. I want to see. That's cool. Oh, he looks so cool. He's like an Aztec warrior.
Roman centurion.
Oh, excuse me, Roman, yes.
I just love the interplay of the black, red, and gold on his centurion armor. I love that he's a skeleton as well, because quite frankly, I love skeletons. His name is Pius, and you take control of him in the first mission. A strange voice lures him into a ruin where he manages to find a vault containing 3 weird-looking artifacts, each one representing an elder's god, and whichever artifact that you choose will decide which god that Pius ends up serving.
Ooh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That makes so much great playability too.
Yeah, and this is, I'm gonna rush far ahead now, but the game actually has a really interesting a replayability factor to it, because if you beat the game 3 times with all 3 artifacts that Pius picks up, you get like a special ending. And
Ooh.
I did that, and I absolutely loved it.
Would you say that the ending is definitely worth it?
It's worth it, because it's not just the ending that changes with each playthrough, but you have different types of looking monsters depending on the artifact that the villain picks up in the beginning, and some are more scary, some have magic, and some are more physically dangerous to you. In fact, it's like a rock paper scissors system when it comes to the magic in that game, because the red, let's call him Eldritch Abomination, the red god defeats the green god defeats the blue god, and the blue god defeats the red god. And I say gods, but one is a giant what's it? The claws. It's not a crab. One is a giant lobster. One is a giant jellyfish. And one is like a strange one-eyed multi-armed creature thingy.
They're all sea creatures, and then there's this one.
yeah, there's 2 sea creatures, and then there's a green deranged Vishnu. Now, the green god is called Celotath, and she's my favorite, because she has 2 voices. She talks to herself, one in a normal-ish lady voice, and the other in a whispering kind of voice, and she does not always agree with herself.
Yeah, she's like conflicting with herself. Man, like that is really cool. It makes her a lot deeper, definitely.
So, yes, in between the chapters, though, if you put it back to where we were talking, so in between the chapters, you play as Alex Roivas again, and then you're scouring the mansion to find more pages so you can play through more scenarios. Now, this is where you ask me what makes this game so special.
Well, yeah, what makes this game so special, Lost? Because there are a lot of games where you go through a mansion and, Resident Evil, Amnesia, trying to figure out what's going on.
I'm very glad you asked that very non-scripted question.
Yeah, I don't even have the script open, dude, like for real. It's just fun to talk with you. I like our dynamic too.
Yes. So, well, you got your standard health and magic bars, right? But you also got a green bar called your sanity meter. And when your sanity meter decreases, whether you get attacked by enemies or some weird shit starts happening to you, when that goes down, the game turns weird.
That really does sound like Amnesia.
But imagine Amnesia, right? Where suddenly the walls start bleeding. Imagine you enter a room and that room is upside down. And then another time, imagine that you're fighting a zombie. It comes for you. You have almost no health left, but you have decided, I'm gonna make a stand. So you try your best and you hack and slash away, and then suddenly your arm falls off.
What? Meanwhile, the zombie's like, dude, I didn't even touch you. I'm sorry, man, I'll just go.
So these are called sanity effects. So when your sanity goes low, really interesting things starts happening. And when I played it through as a kid, I always kept my sanity super low because I wanted to experience all of that shit. I wanted the game to start messing with me.
Honestly, dude, that is really cool, because as far as Amnesia goes, I feel like it's kind of lackluster in the sanity effect. Like, oh, your sanity goes down, so now you are more scared and the monster can hear you, and I feel like that's basically it. And then there's Bloodborne, but Bloodborne's like kind of like enlightenment meter isn't as, I guess, horrifying. It is definitely eldritch horror, but this sounds really cool.
The things I talked about, those are what I call the in-game sanity effects. There are others as well, and the very first time I played the game, I got really confused because the TV started to mute itself.
Ooh.
And I was like, what the hell is happening? So I tried to unmute it, and so I just boosted the volume, and then, because it was of course the game just messing with me, when it got back, you heard like this scream coming from the main character, and my mom is like, what the hell just happened? I'm bursting into my room wondering if I had suddenly died.
Yeah, for sure. Why? What's all this yelling about?
Yeah. So the meta game Sanity meter effects are one of those that it's the reason why I remember it so well. Did you ever play Batman Arkham Asylum?
I did not. All I know about Batman Arkham Asylum is that there's the Batman zone and it takes up a third of the screen.
That is true. He's a buff dude, but at one point in that game, the game kind of freezes, and I was like, oh god, did the game just fuck up? Is my PlayStation ruined? So I went towards the PlayStation because I was really close to it, and I was about to hit the button when the game popped back into life. Then suddenly, Joker was driving the Batmobile, and I was in the seat next to him, and other weird shit happened. And it turns out that it was the Scarecrow, of course, who had gassed you, and that's why the thing suddenly started to happen.
That honestly seems really wild and kind of out of character. I mean, I know Scarecrow, that's totally his thing, but like in a Batman game, like that's actually really cool.
Yeah, because it only happens at that point, and I don't think any other game had done it like that in a while before the Batman Arkham Asylum games. It blew me for a loop, man. But let me tell you about a few of the other sanity effects, because these are really cool. So you have the muted audio, as I said, but you also have a blue screen, and you have one where it tells you that, oops, sorry, the game is over. You better play the sequel, Sanity's Redemption.
Gotcha. That's pretty clever, actually.
So this game here is made by Silicon Knights, which very interestingly are also the developers of the Metal Gear Solid remake called The Twin Snakes. Did you ever play Metal Gear Solid? The first one?
Yes. Oh, yes, I did.
Well, then you probably know about the Psycho Mantis fight.
Probably the most memorable part in that entire game. Yes.
I remember it so well because he started to read my memory card because we had memory cards back then, right? And I think he mentioned, oh, you like to play Super Mario Sunshine, don't you? I was like, how did he know?
So, you like to play Castlevania? That's what he said to me. And I was like, what?
Yeah, and I think these developers were a great fit for the Metal Gear Solid remake, but just imagine an entire game built around that aspect, your character going crazy. It's really, really good.
That is honestly so cool. Like, you talking about it makes me want to stream it or play it, but is there an HD like remaster or anything?
No, this is one of the games that are lost to time, so we may at some point have to find like an emulator and do a little couple of things in order to get it running.
That'd be pretty wicked, honestly, because you got me all hyped for this. This is really cool.
Well, if you want to play it, there's a bunch of things I really want to talk about, but I'm not going to spoil them. But I do want to bring up one thing, because in the Tome of Eternal Darkness, there's a chapter where you play as an ancestor of Alex, and this guy is a doctor, and he actually does some very basic autopsies on the beasts that attack you. And it's so cool to hear him talk about how these things shouldn't be working, because you have like this torso, or you have two half torsos sewn together that runs at you and tries to kill you. And it's just really interesting in how they chose to portray all of those in the books.
Dude, this really sounds like it was ahead of its time, because a lot of horror games, they either have like good scares and a bad story, or vice versa, or they just fall flat on everything. And that sounds like it really hits the mark. That's so cool. And I haven't heard of it. I haven't heard of it before, you've told me.
And the game also has, famously, one of the worst covers of all time. It has this very non-distinct dark area with like some stones, some ritualistic area thing, and it's just... No, man. It's just a big-ass no.
Ew, it's like you could have the best video on YouTube, but if you have a terrible thumbnail...
Pretty much. I mean, that's an excellent comparison.